stupid. No one's gonna care. Like, oh, why are you wasting your time? We have piles of stuff to do. We have conversations we're supposed to be having. Like, what about your job? Or everything around here? Am I supposed to just manage all this while you're gallivanting? Or the dog? Like, what if I wanted to take a vacation? Do you not care about any of this? Or me? Hello? And don't leave. I can't do all this stuff without you. This is ridiculous.
I need answers. And I can't find them here. I have to know. Okay. Thanks. I've been out and about for a while. Well, what brings you all the way out here? Oh, me? Well, I'm out here trying to accomplish a Pokemon challenge. Oh, a Pokemon challenge. You know, I'm a professional Nuzlocker. Perhaps the best in the world, they say. You know, I've done some challenges too. In fact, I beat a Soul Link Nuzlocke.
Le défi? Tu ne connais rien de la vraie douleur de pouvoir gagner une course en Poké Rouge, de conquérir les vrais maîtres des Pokémon, d'être, comme disent les légendes, un gamer de Dieu.
What about you? What challenge are you trying to do or have done? Me? Naysayers of the Pokemon franchise have labeled the games as children's games, which I suppose stands to reason considering the game's plot has an unsupervised 8-year-old take over the world. But those critics believe that the game requires little to no skill, intelligence, or even hand-eye coordination. Literally, a goldfish played these games and was actually pretty successful. Those haters can't be correct though, right? Can the games be that easy? I mean, sure, a goldfish can beat it, and plenty of people have done a myriad of challenge runs to drastically increase the difficulty, but surely, there's no way that it can stoop any lower. Like, say, for example, I don't know, the game can't be beat by doing nothing, can it? Well, a challenge like that would take incredible patience and dedication. A challenge that would be aptly described as seeing the most boring thing in your life. But forget all that. Someone is going to have to do it, and by golly, I'm going to try. So with class being in session, let's answer the question, can you beat Pokemon by doing absolutely nothing? If we truly want to answer this question, there are a few ground rules that we need to lay down. The first being, what do you mean by doing nothing? Does that mean that I literally don't touch the controller and my character just idles his way to victory? Well, that answer is so simple that I can answer it right now. No, obviously not. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So if my trainer is allowed to do things, I have to find another way to slack off. When doing challenge runs, the challenge affects how you play your Pokemon. This challenge is no different. When I mean do nothing, my Pokemon will do nothing. No moves whatsoever, no attacking, no status moves, not even stat-changing moves. They will just sit there and then win somehow. The only thing I can do is switch my Pokemon, which incidentally happens on its own half the time. To make the challenge a little harder, I also will not use any healing items like potions or antidote type items. There are many times a fight would have been easier by tenfold if I could just use one potion. The items I will use will be held items or permanent stat changers, but during the battles the only thing I can do is switch or stall. Then there's the Miraidon of it all. If my Pokemon will do nothing, does that include Miraidon? I would have to torture myself. Not only would the battles take forever, but getting there an eternity. However, there is one part of the game that can only be accessed by me Rhydon. That is the Dragon Titan in the middle of a lake. So I can't physically beat the game without using me Rhydon at least once. So riding on him will be permitted. There's also the ending, which we will get to later. Also, despite this being a challenge, I'm not doing Nuzlocke rules, like first Pokemon I see are the ones I catch, or fainting means death. I don't hate myself that much. The one rule I, for the most part, will follow is no overleveling. I think if I roll up with a level 90 starter, this will just be a lot of grinding and no actual strategy. I do break this rule a few times, but I'll get to that later. For the most part, those are the Nuzlocke rules that I will/won't do. Although I would be curious if any Pokemon YouTubers could pull this off with Nuzlocke rules. The biggest question is, which game am I going to play this challenge? The number one pick of the 2024 draft, Otter Smoothie, selects Pokemon Violet. Why did I pick this one? Well, that's actually quite simple. Pokemon Violet is an open world, which allows me to go anywhere I want and getting whatever I want, which allows me to just do all of the things.
What are we supposed to call this run? I mean, Do Nothing Challenge is apt, but it just doesn't have that zip, pizzazz. I mean, there's a couple of options we could go with. I mean, you can call it the True Pacifist Run. You can call it the Do Nothing Challenge. But my money is naming it the Slowpoke Run or Slowpoke Challenge. Because Slowpoke, as a Pokemon, is pretty easygoing, go with the flow, doesn't really do much except stick his tail in the water. And I think that's pretty fitting for a Do Nothing Challenge.
So, those are the ground rules. Now I'm ready to take these trainers to school. Going into this challenge, my strategy was simple. I would find Pokemon with Poison Point and Flame Body to do the main bulk of the damage. I would also use Rocky Helmet and Leftovers for my held items. That probably seems too simple, but I know I'm not the smartest trainer. I can't even tell the difference between an EV and an IV. This challenge is really going to stretch my ability to play a children's game. As I begin my momentous undertaking of blowing everything off, I wake up at home, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And just like every typical Pokemon journey begins, I set out from home on my own, ready to get my very first antidote. Now you may be saying to yourself, but Otter, you said you're not using items that heal effects. Perhaps if you did a little less talking and a little more listening, everyone's lives would be a whole lot better. You see, this is not just any old antidote. If I don't have this antidote right now, this whole run is ruined. But I'll get to that later. For now, it's time to pick my starter. At the time, I thought to myself, it doesn't really matter which starter I pick because I won't be using them for this run. So I picked the starter I liked most aesthetically, Quaxly. Of course, I was told later, this was the one Pokemon I shouldn't have chosen because it goes against my strategy completely, because although I would not be using my starter, I was choosing the starter that I would face off against throughout the entire game. Unfortunately, this means that Nemona would choose Fuecoco, who evolves into Skeledirge, which Nemona's only has special type moves, which spits in the face of my strategy of using a mixture of Poison Point, Flame Body, and Rocky Helmet. If I had chosen the other two, it would have been a completely different story, as the other evolved starters use exclusively physical moves. Oh well, I'm sure it'll be fine. Moving on. I have my antidote and my Quaxly, and that's all I need.
Nemona, you better watch out! I'm coming for you!
The strategy for this fight is simple. Lose. If I only have one Pokemon, how do I waste a turn? This is where the antidote comes in. If I were to use the antidote on a Pokemon that isn't poisoned, I get the message that nothing happens, and that is my turn. And because nothing happens, the antidote doesn't get used. The only thing that happens is my turn is wasted. So I let my Quaxly get beaten senseless, and now I can move on. Going into the next area, I'm looking for one Pokemon. Getting Fletchling can answer a few questions about how this run will work. how will I catch new Pokemon, as well as how will I level up my new Pokemon. With my Pokemon doing nothing, the quickest and most efficient way to accomplish both is to just chuck Pokeballs till they give up. This is how I would grind in the fastest way possible. Could I fight trainers to level up my Pokemon and get money as well? Yes, but which would you rather choose? A fight with the trainer that could take up to an hour, that is if you get the strategy right in one try, or one quick ball. Needless to say, I channeled my inner elf with how many balls I threw in this run. So I got myself my new friend in Fletchling along with some other Pokemon. My first official team member. With his flame body, that will be my first major damage dealer. But before we do too much with him, we have one more barrier before this playthrough really takes off. He's here to whine and make sandwiches, and he's all out of sandwiches. Arven will not let us just walk away without proving ourselves to earn our shiny new whip. Now you're probably wondering, now that I have my first team member, how am I going to, quote-unquote, tackle this fight? Simple. Lose. I find it hilarious that Arven cares so little for me, Rhydon, that he will challenge you to a fight to prove yourself, and when you lose, he just blows it off like, whatever, close enough. In hindsight, I could have easily won this fight against this one level 5 Squovit by just having 6 Pokemon to stall him out. But 1, it's much faster to lose, and 2, and more importantly, I didn't think of that. With access to a much bigger area and my new 2025 Rhydon Turbo, I was ready to get the next member of my team. With Wooper/Clodsire's Poison Point, we have another major damage dealer. Perhaps even more so, because fainting to poison is a lot faster than to a burn. And with this run, how fast a Pokemon faints matters a lot. Having a poison or burn gives me some flexibility. If a Pokemon can't be poisoned, I can use burn, and vice versa. Now you're probably wondering, now that I have 2 Pokemon members, how will I quote-unquote scratch this next fight off my list? Well, the answer is quite simple. Lose. Now, I promise I will actually start winning these fights, but for right now, I don't have to, so I won't. Again, I could have easily stalled Nemona's 2 whole Pokemon, but also, again, I didn't think of that. Nevertheless, we press on to our true first challenge of this run, a Team Star Grunt with a level 8 Shroodle. This is no joke. See, any chump can lose a Pokemon battle, but it takes some real chutzpah to actually win one. It's now or never. This fight will make or break the run. Could I beat this trainer by doing nothing? Yes and no. I have to admit that this was still when I was figuring out my strategy. I was laser focused on using my Poison Point Flame Body strategy that I didn't think of anything else. This is partially why I said I would level cap for the most part, because I leveled up my Fletchling to level 17 so it'll evolve into a Fletchrinder and gain Flame Body, since Poison Point won't work on Shroodle. So I was able to easily beat the one Shroodle. However, now that I better understand the strategy, I know it easily can be done with 6 Pokemon stalling the Shroodle out. Although I beat it with a higher level Pokemon, I think it's going to be moot, because I'm just trying to prove whether or not this run can actually be done. Besides, later on, I'm going to use much lower level Pokemon, so I think they cancel out. With my victory comes the sweet, sweet spoils. Nemona comes down with a Terra Orb for my next battle.
Surprise! Get that cone out of my face!
Using no moves means no terastallizing either. But it's the thought that counts, right? After giving me the Terra Orb, the game gives me a tutorial on how to use it, and Nemona just stands there waiting for me to use her present. Of all things I expected of this run, I didn't plan for straining Nemona and I's relationship. Hopefully this doesn't cause her to be super petty for the rest of the game. That would be a hidden difficulty curve. But despite that, the next Team Star doesn't actually require terastallizing. So I use my Wooper to poison the Yungoos and easily move on. With Team Star out of the way, my school year can officially start. Fast forward through introductions, cutscenes, and being voluntold that I'm saddled with 3 main quests to backpack through Paldea to find my bliss or something like that, I don't know. There is an advantage to being set free to go wherever I want though, because the first thing I need to do is traverse pretty much the entire continent to get 2 items, Rocky Helmet and Leftovers. With Violet being open world, I can get these items pretty much right away. Held items like these will be used throughout the run to give me the support I need. Plus, with the Delibird stores, I'm able to buy multiple of these gifts. Armed with my Rocky Helmet, Leftovers, and my Pokemon, I can finally begin my Pokemon journey. I just have to decide where to go first. Since Pokemon Violet doesn't scale its levels to its trainer's levels, this makes the answer quite easy. I have to play Pokemon Violet in the proper order of levels, so I'm not over-leveled with most of these fights. This sets our first destination at the Bug-type Gym Leader. The Wombo combo of Poison Point, Flame Body, and Rocky Helmet make light work of both the Bug-type Gym Leader and Cloth, the Stony Cliff Titan. However, funnily enough, an interesting thing happened when I fought Cloth for the second time. Despite Cloth hitting me multiple times, no Poison Point was triggered, and all of the damage was dealt exclusively by Arven's shoulder.
Kung Fu! Here comes trouble! What the hell just happened?
Brassius gave me a hiccup when I failed on my first try, but that did not deter me. Adjusting my strategy a little, I was able to beat him on my second try. With knowing when to send which Pokemon out and a little bit of stalling, I was just barely able to squeak out a victory. My next challenge would not be so easy. In fact, I felt the need to bring in some specialists and the next 2 members of my official team, the Twins. I went to the desert to capture 2 hippopotas, a boy and a girl. I also caught a Silicobra, but did not end up using them in the long run. All of these Pokemon have the similar ability to summon sandstorms that can deal damage over time from being thrown in or hit. Hippopotas was easier because it automatically did the sandstorm without getting hit. Sandstorms would make it easier to deal damage while waiting for a Poison Point or Flame Body to land. I brought 1 hippopotas and a Silicobra to face Bombardier. I was successfully able to defeat Bombardier the first round with only 2 Pokemon left, but it immediately went into the second round with Arven's help. Unfortunately, Bombardier was able to kill the last 2 of my Pokemon fairly quickly, but thanks to Arven's Knackley, he pretty much tanked the whole fight again. So, despite my whole team dying, I still won somehow. The struggles don't stop there, because after barely scraping by with Bombardier, I continued on to my next challenge, the first Team Starbase, the Dark Leader Giacomo. Heading to the base, I run into Steve Buscemi and a Team Stargrunt, which I easily deal with. Now that I've dealt with them and have access to the base, I'm confronted with an important question. You see, if you're unfamiliar, every Team Starbase requires the trainer to run a gauntlet for 10 minutes using the auto-battling feature. Now here's a question. Does auto-battling ruin the run? Does auto-battling count as doing something? Well, let's break it down and see if we can find an answer. First, let's look at the actual phrase, auto-battling. You would think that a battle would fall into doing something, but this whole time, I've technically had many battles, and I was able to accomplish that by doing nothing, so who's to say my Pokemon are actually even doing anything? I mean, you can't even see the fight, just a cartoonish cloud. You may think that that answers the question, but now we run into a real problem. If we look at the fight right before the cloud of smoke, you can see my Pokemon do their attack animation, so that would be 1 point in the doing something column. The final piece I would like to submit for your consideration is probably the biggest one. This whole run is based around using no moves whatsoever, or if we get real technical, using no power points. After all is said and done, I looked at my Pokemon's move, and no power points were used, which means the condition of this whole run has not technically been broken. So that's 1 more point in the not doing something column. With all of those points into consideration, where does that leave us? No idea. I can honestly see it going either way. If you think that auto-battling counts as doing something, then you have your answer. I cannot beat this game by doing nothing. But I think, for this video's sake, the main condition wasn't broken, so I think it's okay. If you disagree, I don't blame you, but that's not where my problems end. I now have to face Giacomo. He has a level 21 Pawniard and a level 20 Dark Star Mobile. With my Clodsire, Hippopotas, Fletchwinder, Silicobra, and others, I'm sure I can beat 2 Pokemon. Despite my best efforts and many tries, I finally decided to move on and come back later. This is the other reason I said for the most part on a level cap. For some odd reason, I could not figure this fight out till later. If I were to redo the run, I would have no doubt that I would be able to pull it off. But I'll not let this defeat deter me. Except, this run won't let me off the hook so easily, and I'm about to learn a hard lesson. Granted, this was not a problem with the game, but rather with the stream itself. You see, when I started this run, I thought it would be fun to start with a 24-hour stream. I had never done one before, so I thought it would be a good idea. The problem came in with YouTube streaming. The first part of the stream, I was only doing it on YouTube, and when you do a stream on YouTube, it automatically saves the VOD. When it saves the VOD, the max amount it saves is 12 hours. Luckily, before I had learned this, I went out and didn't end up streaming the full 24 hours, so I ended up losing like 6 hours of footage. But at least it wasn't 12. So all that to say, I don't have footage from my fight with Iono.
Ironic.
Which really sucks because this fight was a real turning point for the run. A he's beginning to believe type of fight. Iono has 4 Pokemon. A level 23 Wattrel, a level 23 Luxio, a level 23 Bellabolt, and a level 24 Mismagius. I don't remember much of the fight since it's been well over a year, but I do remember some key highlights. Iono's first 2 Pokemon were easy for me, considering they only have physical moves. I also had mostly ground-type Pokemon, so electricity wasn't much of an issue. That was until she sent out Bellabolt. Her Bellabolt has Water Gun, which negates a strategy of ground types and my Fletchrinder. So I tried to stall her with other Pokemon, but none could last long enough to make a difference. See, my Clodsire and Fletchrinder couldn't go in to land a status condition. The only option was to deal damage with the Sandstorm, but that would deal damage to my Pokemon as well. If they weren't Rock, Ground, or Steel, they would get hit, and if they were these types, they would die to Water Gun. Some would say that Steel could tank the water attacks, but I learned something during this fight. Pokemon Violet has some Pokemon that completely negate other Pokemon. Enter the MVP of our fight. In this corner, weighing around 18 pounds, standing at a whopping 1'4", the Brown that's ready to throw down, the lightweight champion of the world, Wooper! I ended up catching many Woopers at the beginning of the run to find one with Poison Point, but found many with Water Absorb. My humble, under-leveled Wooper was Bellabolt's worst nightmare. When he would shock, Wooper would negate it. When Bellabolt would Water Gun, Wooper would absorb it. All the while, the Sandstorm set by Hippopotas would slowly chip away at Bellabolt, and Wooper would just stand there, unfazed. When Bellabolt looked into Wooper's eyes, he would only see his death. Once the hurdle of Bellabolt was removed, the rest of the fight was a cakewalk. From this fight, I was able to learn how some people are able to predict what moves will come next. I had never understood it till now, but this knowledge will be crucial to this run. On the way to my next objective, I added 2 more members to my team. Our Demolition Expert. A Carkol with Flame Body, and the MVP of our entire run, Glimmet. With Carkol, he could do what Fletchrinder could do, but better. He has Flame Body as well, but he is also a Rock type, so Sandstorms don't damage him like they do for Fletchrinder. With Glimmet, he has Toxic Debris, which automatically poisons the whole team without relying on Poison Point to trigger. Essentially, this changes the challenge from dealing damage to each Pokemon to waiting out the team's inevitable demise. A true game changer. Despite all of this, Fletchrinder was not ready to be benched. With his combo of Flame Body and Rocky Helmet, he was able to single-handedly take down the Orthworm Titan the first round. Unfortunately, he went down with a blaze of glory as both Orthworm and Fletchrinder fainted at the same time. With a little help from Toad School, Fletchrinder was able to finish off Earthworm the second time. While writing this script, I've had to rewatch my streams to refresh my memory, and let me tell you, knowing what I know now, my streams are a hard watch. It's like, you idiot, why would you switch to a ground type? The Pokemon is going to use a water move. That was the trainer fight before Kofu's gym. I mean, his lackey only had 2 Pokemon. How hard could it be? After many tries and some common sense, I finally managed to beat Kofu and his overzealous intern. I now feel confident enough to go back and do the dark and fire bases. With my newfound knowledge and my overleveled Pokemon, I was able to secure those victories. Although, again, if I did run this again, I could succeed the first time around. In between all of these battles, I was able to catch the next member of my team, as well as 2 reserve. Two Earthworms and a Cloyster. They have high defense to tank attacks. Getting back on track forces me to do the poison base for my 3rd Team Star base in a row. Poison can be troubling because the bulk of my strategy is to poison all the Pokemon. Luckily, after a few tries, I was able to beat the toddler guarding the base and move on to the leader Atticus. This is also where I learned Steel types are impervious to poison because I was able to win with only my 2 Earthworms taking hits while my Hippos slowly whittled away the health with Sandstorms. If you want more details, I made a short about it. I feel like I've learned so much, predicting moves, Steel types, Pokemon negating one another. I feel like I've ascended. I'm no longer an over-leveled starter 8-year-old plebeian trainer. I'm now a 30-year-old basement-dwelling man trainer. Using my massive intellect, I skip over the Medali gym test because I knew the answer to get straight to the good stuff. Larry. With my team, Glamora, Earthworm with a rocky helmet, Clodsire with the black sludge, Colossal with leftovers, Talonflame with goggles, and a Hippodon with a rocky helmet, I am able to beat Larry and Nimona on the first try. With these battles, you can see my strategy on full display. First, to get hit by a physical attack to drop the toxic spikes. I then use Sandstorm, Poison Point, Flame Body to deal with the first Pokemon. After, I just survive. I feel like I'm finally hitting my stride. My strategy covers all the types and can pretty much go the same way every time. I'm already past the Poison and Steel challenges. I doubt anything will be stopping me at this point. What is that? Well, whatever.
I think I'm finally ready to go out and meet new people, I said with immaculate confidence. I was then hit by a plane and pulverized instantaneously.
I've made a huge mistake. Job Bluth. The Ghost Gym is a unique one, because it is the only one with double battles. Normally, this doesn't matter, but for this run, it's my kryptonite. With the Do Nothing run, the name of the game is Survive, and with double battle, my Pokemon died twice as fast, and Ryme's team was no joke. She was rocking with a level 41 Banette, level 41 Mimikyu, level 41 Houndstone, and a level 42 Toxtricity. The fight would usually go like this. Ryme would send out Banette and Mimikyu. Banette would usually start off with Sucker Punch for the first 5 turns, but would usually follow it up with Icy Wind. Mimikyu would use physical moves like Slash or Shadow Sneak. Since this is a double battle, they can come out at the same time. So 2 out of the 4 have to be damaged from either a Poison Point or Sandstorm. The toxic spikes are not going to work here. Later, Houndstone would primarily use Phantom Force and sometimes Play Rough. Toxtricity is the real problem, because he uses an amplified Hyper Voice with the Punk Rock ability and Discharge. Both moves attack both of my Pokemon at the same time. They of course have other moves, but these are the ones that they use the most. These were my adversaries, my insurmountable obstacle. Sometimes I would make it all the way to Toxtricity by itself. Sometimes I would be decimated by Banette's Icy Wind, but all times I would end in defeat. Over and over, death after death, I would step into the arena only to be met with cold, uncaring reality. I would try to change my Pokemon to win, but to no avail. I scream at my Pokemon only to have blank faces and idle animations be the response. Hours pass, days even. I begin to question the point of this run. I mean, who am I kidding? This is not a challenge. If you do nothing, do you actually accomplish anything? No one is watching this. No one cares. I get what, 2-3 viewers at best? And the typical response is, man, that's crazy. This isn't going to do anything for my channel. It's just a massive waste of time. Even if I win, I will still have done nothing. Maybe my dad was right. This is it. Ryme has taken me to school. But then, a light at the end of the tunnel. A beacon to keep me going. One small creature that makes a big difference. Every time I get into this fight, I can see her there, cheering for me. Whether it's going well or terribly, she still shows up. No matter how many times I lose, she doesn't lose hope. And neither should I. What am I doing feeling sorry for myself? If she thinks I can do it, then maybe I can. I need to do it for her. But how? Even if I can somehow manage to get to Toxtricity, I can't get past that hyper voice. This run is hemorrhaging like crazy and I have no way to stop it. It's dying on the operating table. Wait a minute. Hemorrhaging? Blood? That's it. When something is bleeding profusely, you need something to stop it. You cauterize it. Yes. Use fire. Or rather, fight fire with fire. Perhaps, if I use ice types, we can use the snowstorms to our advantage. Yes. Yes, it's coming together now. It's so crazy it just might work. Guess not. Wait, what was I thinking? Hemorrhaging blood? Blood has a metal taste to it. Of course, a steel type. But not just any steel type. Enter one of our final team members, our second MVP of the run, our X Factor, Corviknight. Not only is Corviknight steel type that withstands sandstorms, but I caught one with the specific ability, Pressure. This meant I had to grind to find Rookity, and not just any Rookity, but one with Keen Eye, which took a while. So I have to go all the way back to the beginning area and level it to 41, all while doing nothing. Once I have him, I'm ready to go. I had the perfect lineup. Coalossal and Avalugg, both with rocky helmets, Lamora and Clodsire, both with black sludge, Hippowdon with leftovers, and finally Corviknight with an assault vest. So here's how it went down. Ryme sends out Mimikyu and Banette, and I send out Coalossal and Avalugg. Coalossal and Avalugg are my barriers, ready to take all the hits. Mimikyu alternates between Slash and Shadow Sneak. Once Banette wastes 5 turns on Sucker Punch, he then alternates between Icy Wind and Shadow Sneak, but Avalugg and Coalossal can handle it with the rocky helmets. They are able to do damage with every physical hit. Coalossal was also able to land a Flame Body on both, while Lamora was able to slip in and drop Toxic Spikes. Since they are both at the beginning, Toxic Spikes don't affect them, which is where the Flame Body and Rocky Helmets come in. Coalossal and Avalugg stand firm against the onslaught when Mimikyu faints and Houndstone comes in. Houndstone, being poisoned, uses mostly Phantom Force, which takes 2 turns, meaning 1 less turn to take damage while the poison does its work. And it worked out nicely because Banette and Houndstone were able to faint around the same time, leaving the final bastion, Toxtricity. This is where the rest of my team comes in. Toxtricity has 3 moves: Discharge, Hex, and the real killer, Hyper Voice. Hyper Voice has 10 power points, but with Corviknight, he can make that 5. My other Pokemon can survive the other moves, so all Corviknight needs to do is survive 5 Hyper Voices. Through baiting and switching, I am able to be hit by the moves I want. If I get hit by the wrong move, I'm sunk. So I start with Hippowdon and Clodsire, who starts the Sandstorm. I then switch to Corviknight to take the Hyper Voice. Since Hyper Voice is not effective and Corviknight is flying, it baits the Discharge. I then switch back to Hippowdon and Clodsire. Hippowdon and Clodsire were hurt from a turn with Banette and Houndstone, but are able to use these free turns to heal back up with leftovers and Black Sludge. This would continue for 10 turns until Hyper Voice ran out. Once that happened, Toxtricity switches to Hex and Discharge. X is a single hit instead of an AoE, so it's a guessing game of who his target is. Slowly but surely, my team is able to hold out while Sandstorm whittles away and causes Toxtricity to finally faint. Who's a mistake now, Dad? 15. This gym took 15 hours, not including the off-screen grinding I had to do. Now that that is out of the way, I am able to beat the Quaking Titan, Psychic, Ice, and Fairy challenge with relative ease. Relative to my 15-hour purgatory. Iron Tread was especially nice because Arven was able to help with his Scoville and do a huge chunk of damage. Man, that's been the best and easiest part of this run. Arven is a real one. I can't imagine that changing. The last 2 challenges. I have 2 challenges left before the final fights, but we're not out of the woods yet. We have the False Dragon Titan and the Fighting Team Starbase. The first one up is False Dragon, and this one is unique in a sense that instead of 2 rounds, this one has 3. I beat Dondozo twice, then I have to fight Tatsugiri. The first fight I had, I was 1 hit away from victory, but couldn't quite get there. No problem. If I did that once, I can do it again. Perhaps the RNG will be in my favor. I don't have much problem with Dondozo. He uses physical attacks, so a Rocky Helmet will suffice. Tatsugiri has all special moves, so the strategy here needs to be different. The real issue here is Arven and his stupid Greedent, because despite Greedent having 3 attack moves, he decides to use the one that doesn't help me at all, Tail Whip. If I'm really lucky, he might use Takedown, which also damages himself. I also can't Sandstorm because that hurts Greedent as well. So I have 2 choices. Wait and get beat down for a chance Greedent might attack, or just go all in on a Sandstorm and kill my only attacker faster. Arven has been consistent this whole time, so the only conclusion is Greedent is the problem. He's probably not listening to Arven. I try multiple times, but have no luck. So I decided to move on out of pure frustration. However, the fighting base presents its own challenges. In the midst of these 2 objectives, I implement my final team member. The Enforcer, Gyarados. Granted, I sub in other Pokemon for different jobs, but for the most part, the ones mentioned are my go-tos. In Gyarados' case, I use him for the Intimidate and High Defense. Lowering attack allows me to live a little longer, especially to offset the Fighting Starmobile constantly raising its attack. So in order to beat the fighting team, I brought in Corviknight and Spiritomb, both with pressure, Hippowdon, Lamora, Gyarados, and Colossal. Eri had Toxicroak, Passimian, Lucario, Annihilate, and her Starmobile. Through some planned switching, Corviknight and Spiritomb are able to avoid some moves due to typing. I am able to make it through to Eri's final Pokemon with barely a scratch on me. My Pokemon standing firm gets me hyped. I feel like Deku facing Todoroki, but with some patience, I get through Toxicroak with no hits whatsoever, Passimian with minimal damage from Seed Bombs, and he was poisoned before he did Rock Tomb. Annihilate was a lot of guesswork since its moves were quite varied, but I was able to manage it quite well. Lucario being a Steel type means I had to struggle them out. The Fighting Starmobile took some time, but we got there. I head back to the Dragon Titan. The issue I'm having is having a Pokemon to be good with both Titans. So the team I end up using having 2 Hippowdons, a Cloyster, a Vaporeon, a Tinkaton, and Gyarados. I ended up just using Sandstorm to take Tatsugiri down. No thanks to Greedent, who did the bare minimum to contribute. If I had known that Skwovet would evolve into this bottom-feeding piece of garbage, I wouldn't have let him get away without a swift kick to his berries. Luckily, I got the opportunity right now. The endgame fights are all around the same levels, but I got a little confused, so I did the Arven fight first. Arven has a fully evolved team of his Pokemon he used to fight the Titans. Most of his Pokemon are fine, most are dealt with poison, but the real problem is Garnackle. he is a triple threat. Not only is he impervious to sandstorms, he has the ability Purifying Salt, which means he can't be poisoned or burned. So I have to resort to stalling. But Garnackle isn't done yet. He also knows Stealth Rock.
She can't do that. Shoot her or something.
Stall is going to cost more damage this time around. I can manage Earthquake and Stealth Rock, but Body Press and Stone Edge are the real problem. If I can survive them, I can use the other moves to heal up. So, I sacrificed Gyarados to lower his attack as low as possible to survive, and healed my Corviknight and Orthworm on the other two moves, which made the difference. When I made it to Mobastiff, my Pokemon was 2 hits away from defeat, but Hippowdon and Coalossal was just able to clutch out a victory. My next challenge took me to face the Elite Four. The way the Elite Four works is it's 4 trainers back to back, so I need to determine if I should use healing items in between battles. My first opponent is Rika, and this is the pinnacle of my run. With Rika, I was able to walk away from the fight with my entire team at full health on my first try. Well, technically not, but for some odd reason, my leftovers didn't heal the last turn, but it would have healed if the turn went normal though. Corviknight tanked most of the damage for the fight and then healed from Rika's Clodsire moves. So I guess for now, there's no need to even use the healing items. I and my chat also determined potions and revives were okay in between fights because if I had access to a Poke Center, I would have used it anyways. The next 2 fights were a little complicated because both were impervious to toxic spikes. The Child with Steel type and Larry with Flying type, which half of them don't touch the ground to even get poisoned. But with thoughtful switching and some substitutions, they fell like the rest. Hazel wasn't too much of a problem. Most of his Pokemon fell by poison except for the first Nidrogalgi, but my other strategies dealt with them not so swiftly, because struggling takes forever. The Elite Four had been defeated, the 2 champions are next. Gita was easy for the most part. Half of her Pokemon fall to poison, but 2 are a little harder to deal with, Kingambit and Glamora. Neither can be poisoned or sandstormed, so they have to be struggled. Except when they hit hard. It's a grueling battle, but with blood, sweat, and tears, Tinglu and Corviknight emerge victorious. After that gauntlet, I need a break. Something easy to give my Pokemon a reward. Time to beat up an old man and the quiet kid. Normally, I wouldn't recommend this, but they were such pushovers that if you breathe on them wrong, they would crumble. So if I didn't do anything, it would have happened anyways. Nemona's final battle was mostly no problem, with the exception of her first Pokemon, being Lycanroc using Accelerock, which I had to deal with the whole fight. And then also, I had to struggle her Orthworm. But other than that, there wasn't much to it. This is it. There is only one obstacle between me and total victory. Watch out, CEOs, because I'm coming for the AI. This fight was rough. My plan going in was the same as every other fight, to use poison spikes to poison the entire team. And I would have gotten away with it too, if it wasn't for a meddling moth. Iron Moth for the most part was easy to handle. Being all special moves caused me to struggle him. This is so struggle, a physical move can hit Glamora and land the poison spikes. And his moves were easy to survive, except for Fiery Dance. This one move would just tear through my team. I would need them at a certain level of health in order to survive the rest of the battle. But it made no difference. No matter what typing I used, Toro would use Fiery Dance and it would just do too much damage. Just when I thought I had this run figured out and had the perfect strategy, I still have to make one final substitution in order to negate Fiery Dance completely. I bring in my level 15 Charcadet with Flash Fire. With this, I am also able to avoid getting burned. But with it being so low level, I have to predict its moves perfectly. With all my experience, it has no problem. But Iron Moth doesn't want to go out without a consolation prize. Twice, he's able to poison one of my essential Pokemon. So despite figuring out Iron Moth, I need to keep trying until the RNG has landed in my favor. It only takes a few tries for the stars to align, and man triumphed over machine. Finally, after all those hours, after all that heartache, I've arrived at the end of this whole ordeal, the famed Rhydon fight. I've heard about it and was warned the entire time. My response has always been the same. I'll burn that bridge when I come to it. And burn it I did. Despite my best efforts of stalling, Rhydon did not listen and releases his full fury on the other Rhydon. And since I couldn't save in between the AI fight and this one, I didn't want to subject myself or my viewers to more hours of a fight I had just already beaten. I just accepted it. But you know what I call a moment in a video game where I have no agency whatsoever? A cutscene! Besides, I did not do anything to prompt such violence. The blood is on Rhydon's hand. And if that breaks the challenge for you, take it up with him. I did what I could. I left it all on the field. Me? I beat Pokemon by doing nothing. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I know this video has taken a long time to come out. Struggling with motivation is hard, and trying to figure out the perfect way to do it. This final product is probably not at all what I wanted it to be or envisioned, but I hope that it's good and you guys enjoyed it. Honestly though, I would love to see others attempt this run or do the run with Nuzlocke rules. But I'm sure the other YouTubers who are much smarter than I am would have no issue with it. This is me taking my virtual glove off and smacking you across the face. Hopefully you enjoyed my journey and it wasn't a massive waste of time. Thanks for watching. Bye.